Have you ever asked yourself why you create art? Is it for yourself? Is it for someone else? There could be a lot of reasons why you create art. In today's video, I'm going to share with you one of my favorite reasons, and it is one that brings me so much joy. So I'm really excited to share with you. So get ready for your VIP tour, access pass into my process from start to finish, minus maybe a few things in the beginning where I communicate with the client. But from the beginning of painting to the end process, and at the end, a special reveal. So stay tuned for that. Welcome to my channel! Whether you're new or you've been here for a while, thank you for being here today. My name is Kristina Moyer, and I'm an artist specializing in acrylic paints, but that doesn't stop me from trying whatever kind of medium I want to go for. So you might see various types of mediums in this channel, but acrylic paint is kind of my go-to specialty. I just love the tangible and somewhat unforgiving experience of traditional art. Without any further ado, let's get into this so you know what I'm talking about. Okay, because I know you're a curious sort, I'm sure you are, here's the piece with the family that belongs to. So here's the process. I'm going to start with a canvas, and each painting you can approach different ways, right? It's totally up to you as an artist how you want to approach a painting. This one I've decided to do a grid, so I'm just going to open up. This is a 12 by 16 canvas, and I'm going to create a grid on it and use a reference image among a few that I had to choose between. So I really do enjoy giving a little bit of surprise if the person's willing to put their faith and trust in me and allow me to kind of go for it. But if somebody has something more specific, I can do that too. But I'm just using pencil crayon to create my grid, and that's going to be how I start things. Start with a green one. I'm going to have different colors for what I'm sketching so that I know, okay, this is a line that's just a grid line, and here's a line that's something that I'm drawing from. So I'm using a purple for actually sketching parts of the piece, and then I'm going to use some other colors to differentiate between other components of the painting so that when I start painting, I'm not confused as to what I'm actually looking at. Sometimes if it's really complex, that can make a big difference. So wanted to use a grid so that I got all my proportions really accurate, and I could focus on painting and bringing this to life. When I'm capturing a painting that is so special like this, when we lose a family member and we want to honor them, I think having an accurate depiction of them is important. And so this is one of my favorite reasons to paint, is for somebody else who has a special person that they're trying to honor, a special moment, a special memory, but especially our fur babies and animals that matter to us. So this is really a special opportunity that I had to work on this piece, and I'm really grateful that they trusted me when people put their trust in me to do it. It's really exciting. So there are a number of images that I was given to choose from, and I guess this one was one of, I believe, the last day before they said goodbye, and so it's really heartwarming to kind of share this moment and be part of it. So I'm just kind of blocking out the image with kind of my first layer to kind of get things set up and just set myself up for success, able to continue on and forward. So when you're painting for somebody else, I don't know, for me it's exciting because when it's for myself, it's great, but it's so exciting to do it for somebody else. There's this element of a bit of fear, anxiety, whether you're going to depict things accurately and in a way that is appreciated and that they'll love. Like, that's a lot of pressure, but it's also really exciting because when it's for somebody else, sometimes there's more heart in it, I find. And it's not that, I don't care about the pieces that I do for myself, but there's something about doing something for somebody else it just makes it more special. I don't know. Let me know if you agree. So now it's time to get into some of this dark fur base. And I'm kind of using a blend of purples and things to kind of start the process. Like I said, I'm still blocking things out, getting things set up so that I have a nice base to build my layers on. When I'm painting with acrylics, because they dry so quickly, I tend to focus on one coloring area at a time. Or if I need to kind of blend an area all together, I make sure I'm ready with all my colors and ready to use multiple brushes and get moving quickly. You can kind of see my grid app I'm using. So I use this app that you can upload your image and you can create whatever grid you want with it, if you're doing 1 by 1 or a different kind of grid. So I find it really helpful. It's just a free app. I'll leave a note in the description so you can check it out if that's what you want to give it, if you want to give it a try. So now I'm starting to bring in some other tones so I don't lose the areas that I've already drawn out. If I just paint the whole thing black, it won't do me any good in terms of why I sketched it out in the first place. So just indicating some of those areas that will be significant as I move forward into the painting. So I'm going to be kind of going back and forth talking about why I'm painting this, to talking about, tips about how I'm painting it and everything like that, just as we go along and as I notice something important. For instance, right now, technically using kind of these neutral tones where the fur is setting another base, but also you don't have to just do a flat layer if it makes sense to add some tonal differences or hue differences while your paint is wet. So, don't force yourself into a corner and say, I have to do it this way, right? Allow yourself to have some flexibility as you plan and move forward. So yeah, this piece was really special. This is my fur niece. Yeah, this would be my fur niece. So pretty much, so this is Molly. And I think I knew Molly pretty much the whole time that I've been part of this family. And yeah, Molly was always a sweet dog. And I don't know what your beliefs are regarding, the next life or after we pass on, but my beliefs are that we will see our loved ones and our fur animals, fur babies in the next life as well. They're going to be with us. So that brings me a little bit of peace as I think about my own fur baby that you guys have seen, and the heartbreak that happens when we have to say goodbye. They're just with us for a short time, and time just goes by too fast. So it's very precious to be able to do this. Yeah, Molly was a very, very nice dog and a little bit shy. And yeah, I just knew her as a nice dog. There was nothing negative to say about Molly. So as you can see, some of the areas I've painted kind of this purple to kind of create the black, and I've left some of that purple more visible. That gives me some flexibility when I start adding my layers of fur on top to say whether I want to leave some of that little pop of color in there. It gives it some depth and variety and interest to the eye. So it kind of leaves it open for me to decide later on what I want to do with it. So I'm just establishing some of this fur in the center of the chest, creating different tones and starting to bring more accuracy to what's going on here with the tonal values and on that section a bit. Now we're going back into the background and creating our additional layer. This background I played with quite a bit, figuring out, what I wanted to portray in this background. It wasn't I wasn't really going off of the reference image here. I wanted to give some color. And I do take that into consideration when I have, this is for somebody, a client, and what they like. And I know that they like color. They mentioned that to me. So I said, okay, you like color? Pop of green. His business colors are green. And so I know he likes green, but also, dogs usually love grass. Some of the images he shared with me have Molly sitting out in the grass area. This particular one, she was in the living room, so it would have been hardwood flooring, but I decided to kind of make it look like, hey, she's out in the grass, but with her blanket and her bone, and she's happy, and I just really liked that idea. So I'm playing around with this background to kind of make it not take away from anything, but have some liveliness to it, some interest, and different textures. So I'm playing around with brush strokes. I usually am very blended painter. I don't know what the right word is, but I tend to not do a lot of like impasto and bold brush strokes. Mine are very kind of more like smooth, gradual kind of shifts, if that makes sense. And some of my pieces, you'll notice that. So I want to try to allow myself to be a little more free when I paint. And that's what I'm trying to do here. And painting's such an interesting experience. There's lots like self-discovery and a lot of exploration, and it can be a really interesting experience, especially because I normally paint on my own. Maybe I'll have a podcast going in the background, maybe just some music, maybe nothing, maybe just my own thoughts going around. But one of the most important things, not only trying to accurately depict the person or animal or thing that I'm painting, is the essence of their spirit. So even if that's a landscape, I want the essence of the spirit. So you have this feeling that you get when you're out in nature, or that when you're with your pet or with somebody, there's a feeling you have when you're with them. And I trying to convey that. That's not an easy task, especially if it's not your own pet and you're trying to help that experience happen for somebody else that's going to look at something. So that's the challenge, and that's what I do. That's what brings me joy and the excitement about sharing this with them, to see, are they going to like it? How are they going to feel about it? It's quite interesting. So I'm trying to let my brush strokes not get too blended, but have purpose and bring areas of light and, possibility that just continue the eye to see different things or to have different experiences when you look at it. So it's not just a quick glance and then walk away, but something that, brings you in, holds you there for a while before you move on. So it speaks to you continuously. So I'm kind of having fun with it, playing around a little bit and trying to make good decisions. Now, this is an interesting tool. You might think I'm really weird when you find out what that is. But I don't remember if I saw someone else do this or what, but this is not your regular sponge. This is actually, it sounds really gross, but it's a clump of hair. And it makes really interesting textures that can be really random. So, when you have hair that's coming out that we shed, that's what it is. Hair from my head. It's funny because hair on the head, it's like, oh, this is beautiful, love it. Hair off the head, it's like, ew. So now you know I'm weird. And yeah. So I'm just creating kind of somewhat transparent layer over top of the baby blue. So this, I'm going off of the reference pretty closely, but I don't need it to be like hyper realism. I want it to be realism to the point where they know which blanket it is. It looks like a blanket, it looks real, but it doesn't have to be to the very, fluff perfection. So I'm trying to just convey that it's there and then build on that. So bringing in my tonal values where it's brightest, where it's darkest, and then building from that. So this kind of had a plaid appearance to it. So I'm creating these lines and looking at my reference image quite a bit so that I create the folds in the fabric nicely. So playing around with a 3/4 inch angle brush, 1/4 inch brush we'll get into, a 1/2 inch filbert brush. I love my quarter inch angle brush. Is one of my favorites. This one's a 3/4. This one's also great, especially when I'm trying to cover large areas. I've used it quite a bit for this painting up to this point. But as I start getting into some of the details, I'm going to want to bring my brush down a size a bit. And so I go into my 1/2 inch filbert and 1/4 inch angle brush. I don't have any particular stores where I'm like, this is where you have to get your brushes. But I typically like to buy individual brushes rather than bulk. But if you're doing some kind of paint party or something like that, you might want to have bulk brushes. But I try not to get brushes that are too inexpensive. Otherwise, you're going to have little hairs come off onto your painting, and it's just going to wreak havoc. You don't have to spend a lot of money. You can spend a lot of money on brushes, but for instance, this one was only $11 Canadian. So pretty good especially for how much I've used it. And I mean, I know brushes can get really expensive. I was looking at some watercolor brushes. Oh man, very, very expensive. A watercolor, you definitely want to get nicer brushes. But I find with acrylic paints, you can get away with not super pro brushes. But please, oh please, those really, really cheap ones, I'm talking, comes in a kit and it's for kids, and they say it's for kids. It's just horrible. Like, it doesn't hold any paint. You want to be able to hold some paint. Otherwise, you just have a lot of frustrations if you do that to yourself. So get what you pay for lots of the time. So in here, I've subdued my tones, but I still want kind of a highlight. Like, when you want highlights, but not the brightest highlights, you have to bring the tone down. And I kind of made it a peachy beige tone. I just love mixing colors. It's so fun. I feel like a scientist. It's part of the joy of painting. It's mixing those colors. And it's really something that differentiates from traditional art to digital art, is being able to mix the paint. You're not doing that when you're doing digital art. I don't know if those who have gone from traditional art to digital art, or who do both, if they kind of miss that or how they feel about that. But it's something that brings me a lot of joy when I paint. So I'm sticking with it. Not that I'm opposed to digital arts, and I would like to try more of it, but I'm just so into this that I'm not prioritizing that. So I don't give it my time. There's only so much that you can do, and your time is valuable, and what you do with your time, it's up to you. So I'm just creating some shadows so that the blanket or pillow or dog bed, I'm not sure which one it is, might be a dog bed. Let's just call it a dog bed. So that it has space, so that when you present something, an object, and give it a shadow, it indicates the space a bit better. So even the paw on the dog bed, it gives it a certain feeling of being in a space. I actually found a lot of joy painting the mouth. I don't know why. It was an interesting thing. I think because in the image it was a little bit hard to read, like a little bit obscure, so I had to really rely on the reference image and like trust it versus when you paint something super familiar, super obvious, it's sometimes harder to paint because your mind is stuck in that left brain mode and you're trying to bring it to the right brain side so that you can just create what you see and not what you think you see. We love our brains. They're helpful. That's a helpful tool that our brain, tries to make sense of things from what it's already seen and simplify things, but sometimes we need to try to turn that part off and and paint what we see. I love when Charlie comes into the room just randomly. I'm just looking around to see if he's in here. Oh, he must have left. Normally he comes and he sits in here. I usually have to throw out my first take for any video or anything because usually I'm quiet working and then all of a sudden I'm talking and that gets him excited and so he wants to come in and see me. But I think the door is shut. Oh, not quite. He could make it in if he wanted. They bring so much joy. They are love, I'm telling you. Even though sometimes they can be challenging. Right now we're dealing with reactivity issues. Our pup Charlie was attacked while he was on leash, and since then he's been very reactive to dogs. Even the dog will be across the street and will deal with reactivity issues. So there definitely are challenges, and man, oh man, there are some big expenses, but it's totally worth it. Totally worth it. They're so lovely. So you can see I'm in with my 1/4 inch brush now, and I'm just getting some of those details started. And this is where you start making decisions that, to find the end game. Like when is this ready? When is this finished? We're in that kind of scope right now where it's kind of this conversation with the canvas. What is needed? What is missing? Is that feeling coming yet? I can see a likeness coming, but that feeling's not there yet. Not quite. There's some areas where I'm feeling it. Like I said, the mouth I've pretty much depicted, but those little hairs, getting some of them, you don't have to get them all, but getting some of them can really make a huge difference. And I really thought this side of the face with the different hairs and how I kind of treat that really made the feeling come alive for me. Also like how I've left a little bit of that lime green just as like a little bit of a halo almost around the top end of the dog of Molly. So yeah, it's an honor, and it's also kind of a terrifying honor to have these kinds of requests. I love it, and I'm nervous, but it's also such a joy. And I think that's what you do in life. You take challenging moments. I was just thinking about this morning on my walk. I've been walking with a weighted vest to increase the difficulty of my walks because we're mostly walking flat. We don't have lots of hills. And so I'm not getting much of a workout, especially with a dog that stops to sniff every tree, every clump of grass, it seems. So I'm not getting much of a workout, and an hour-long walk and not feeling like you got a workout is time during your day that you want to, use your time wisely. And so I've upped the challenge to give myself a workout a bit. And isn't it funny how we do that? We purposely give ourselves challenges, but that's what helps us grow. That's what helps us have greater joy. Kind of the greater the risk, the greater the feeling when you succeed, because you don't know if you're going to, and then you give it a go, and hopefully you do, and if not, you learn. That's why I love the quote, you win some, or what is it? Sometimes you win, sometimes you learn, instead of sometimes you lose, because it's not really a loss if you've learned something. And even if in the moment you feel like it's a loss, you can train your brain to see it a different way. See your circumstances and help reprogram how you see those thoughts. So now it's starting to come alive. There's still a ways to go. We still need to make sure we get all those fine hairs that are on the outside edges. So I'm going to bring us in a little closer. Come on in closer. Come check it out. Get some of those hairs on the outside edges so we don't just have a straight edge, because that doesn't make sense. Unless there are areas where that would make sense. And then creating some definition in the center parts of the fur where it's quite dark, but there's still some areas where it's a little bit lighter or a little bit darker. That's going to take it up a notch, 100%. Making sure that we don't have, if your eye gets stuck somewhere, that's when you know you need to kind of fix that area. So as you can see, I can still do quite a lot of fine tuning with this 1/4 inch angle brush. I can do a thicker line, I can do a thin line, and so it's really versatile for me. I don't know. Tell me what your favorite brush is. What is your must-have brush? If you're watching this and you are an artist, let me know in the comments, what is your favorite brush to use? Because maybe there's one that I haven't tried that could be life-changing. As soon as I purchased an ink liner brush, oh man, that was a game changer for me. So of course this one here is absolutely one of my favorites. My ink liner brush, script liner brush. Why am I calling it an ink liner brush? It's kind of like an ink liner thing. Ink liner is what I use for my eyes. Okay. No, my script liner brush is amazing. If you haven't tried a script liner and you like doing fine detail work, you need to try it. And a 1/4 inch angle brush, 100%. If you haven't tried it, give it a go. So I'm going in with, I have a couple brushes going on. Sometimes I'm using a brush to, pull color away. Kind of like if you were doing digital arts, you'd be like changing the opacity of something. So I'm using a separate brush to do that. And creating a little bit of warmth. So I'm bringing a little bit of a warmer tone because we started with that kind of cool purple, and bringing in some of the warmer tones. You can see that did it for me. That was what really started bringing it to life for me. And I guess we're getting close to the end of the actual piece being finished. So I'm just making sure all my little details are set. And that's going to include, here's my script liner brush. Let's get it right. I think I even said it wrong in my last video. I clearly need to work on my technical terms and terminology. That's not my forte. Especially because I'm mostly self-taught. I did an art degree, but let me tell you, it was more learning to talk about art than how to paint. I don't remember ever taking a class about how to paint. I do remember one of my classes was actually giving us tips about how to draw, which was super impressive to me because I'm like, hey, here's a class that's actually teaching me technical skills for art. So I appreciated that, and I still use those skills. But This grip liner brush is fantastic for getting these little fine hairs that give it that personality, that just take it over the edge, especially for like realistic aspects. And just, you know, sometimes you have those little hairs that are just kind of a wingding hair. It's kind of like, yeah, the sound effects. Hopefully you can understand what I mean by my sound effects. But yeah, it just gives it that little bit of extra that the 1/4 inch just isn't quite capable of. So once I go in with the lighter hairs, I go in with my darker hairs as well. And if you need any in between, you go with any in between that you need, just until you have the likeness and the feeling. You gotta have the feeling, because without the feeling, it's not anything really. It's it's like, oh, that looks good. That looks like something. I want that feeling. I want people who know Molly and experience Molly to see it and truly see Molly, not just a border collie, but hey, that's Molly. That's her bone. That's her bed. Like, that's what I want. And look at the joy in her eyes and in her expression. That's what I'm going for. And we're going to find out at the end if I've achieved that to some degree. So we're going to see the reveal, what the family who lived with Molly, you know, what they think, because that's really what matters most. And I'm feeling it, but they got to feel it too. So we're going to sign this. And I'm also going to include in this how I finish off a painting. So quite often I'll just show the painting process, but I don't always show the finishing process. So I have a number of paintings I need to varnish. So I use a polyacrylic, and this is a brush that's designated for varnishing. You don't want to use a brush that has any color in it. And it looks a little cloudy when you first apply it, but is not cloudy at all afterwards. I also painted the edge, which I didn't show that process, but I painted the edge black just to give it a nice finished look so they don't have to frame it if they don't want to. And I had other paintings I needed to varnish as well. This one's been waiting a while. And and also I should note that there was time in between. You don't just varnish right away. You have to make sure it's fully dry before you do that. So now the varnish is fully dry as well. Give it plenty of time. Don't just wait till it's a little dry. Like, it needs to be fully dry before you do these things, or I'm putting it on a towel. Right? So now I'm going to wire it so they can hang it. And I like this process because it holds up nicely, and I just feel like it's more professional. I don't know. Maybe it's not. It seems more professional to me, and it holds it nicely. I think it's a little more sturdy. So I'll add this wire, and I put it 1/3 of the way down. So that's kind of the key element when you're doing the wiring. It's 1/3 down, because the wire is going to pull and stretch a little bit, and you want it to balance well. So there it is, varnished, ready to show them. Now the moment of truth. Gotta take them the piece and see if they like it. Wish me luck. Okay, we are just about to bring them the commission piece, so I'm really excited, and Charlie's excited too, because I think he knows that he gets to see a fur cousin and run in the yard. So here we go. Wish us luck. Yeah, you guys are on camera. Well, I don't know if Curtis told
I'm
you
Curtis Moyer.
anything.
We run Dirtworks Landscaping and Construction.
Yeah, if you're in the Calgary area looking for what?
No, don't put that up. We're too busy to
Too
accommodate all customers right now.
Okay,
Wow.
so
All
it's time for the reveal. I don't know if you guys even know about this at all.
Curtis mentioned something to me, but Hannah doesn't. I have no clue.
Okay, so I'll pass it to you.
You go ahead.
Whoever wants to open it. Hope you like it. And if you don't, there's nothing I can do at this point.
You'll
So at least
crying.
pretend.
We're gonna love it. You're very talented.
It's beautiful.
Oh, she looks so happy in her. Oh, it was a year on May 10th.
Oh, really?
It's just a year.
Oh, turn around.
It's the exact day too.
Oh, Charlie, get out of the picture.
And that was her last day, right before when the nurse was here. She was chewing her bone on the blanket.
Oh. I just loved that one that you sent. I was like, I know you sent
It
some
looks
that
just
had
like
other,
her.
like, had Panda in too, but I was like, I just wanted to, like,
Yeah.
focus on Molly and be like, yeah,
Yeah.
there's Molly.
And
It's so beautiful.
you see who it is? You see who it is?
Walks away.
Oh, that's beautiful. Thank you so much.
Even the bone.
I know, her bone, she was
I'm
eating,
trying
right?
not to cry.
Did we bury her with that bone?
It's okay if
No,
you cry.
Panda took the bone, remember?
Oh, yes.
Oh.
I love the green.
She looks so happy in it.
I thought you might like the green. I was like, it's very on brand.
I love
Yeah,
it.
I like
absolutely
the
love it.
company colors.
Yeah.
Kristina, you're so talented. We're
It
moving
is
your
wonderful.
picture.
Thank you
You
so
like
much.
it? Okay.
We're moving
So
your
talented.
picture that's right there.
I want to say a special thank you to my brother-in-law for trusting me with this project. It's been so special and such a delight. Thank you so much, truly. And of course, a big thank you to you right there watching right now. Hey, if you're still here, give me a high five, thumbs up. Bonus points to you for sticking out until the end. It's awesome. It supports me so much. I really appreciate it. So give me a thumbs up and let me know in the comments what your favorite moment was from this video. Don't forget to subscribe and hit that notification bell so you don't miss a thing. We'll see you next time. Bye.